Decisions. The decisions that we have to weigh out. What are the biggest decisions that we make in business and in life? How do we weigh those decisions out? I mean, it's been long said that the decision on how we value real estate is all about three things: location, location, location. But that's real estate. What about the biggest decisions we make in other parts of our business and in life? We are here with my good buddy, Tom Cisneros.
Good morning.
We are here with Marcus Haney.
Good morning.
And we have the special privilege today of having Todd Flowers be joining us in studio. How you doing today, Todd?
I am doing great.
What up,
gentlemen.
Todd?
Todd?
Good to
What
be
up,
here.
Todd?
Hey, can we turn down the lights? You guys look really beat up this morning.
Todd is my brother-in-law, business partner, and a very close friend of mine. So welcome today, Todd. Todd, I think you have made some great decisions in your life. I know you've made some that are a little more questionable. But let's start with you, Tom. Decisions. How do we make the biggest decisions in business and in life?
You know, I actually I have a little anecdote, so to speak. I used to tell my kids as they were growing up that when it comes right down to it, there's really only two decisions in life. Really, I really believe this. Two. There's the right decision. There's the wrong decision. And deep down inside, don't we all know? We do. Yeah, and sometimes we'll make the wrong decision.
It's the zeros and ones, right? Which way are you going to go?
Right. So when it comes right down to it, I mean, should you follow your heart? Well, sometimes you have to be analytical, and so it's the right decision and the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Make more right decisions
Good
than you
point.
do wrong
Good
decisions.
point. Now, Marcus, you're over there with the Facebook Live camera in hand, Marine Corps vet, entrepreneur on a limitless limo. How do you make the big decisions?
I think you try to,
That's a good answer.
Hey,
That's a good
Marcus
answer,
always
Marcus.
pauses before he makes a decision.
Exactly. Try to pause and, I usually try to look at it for what's the best thing for the entire team. And if I can make a decision that affects the entire team positively, then we all
Help
win.
the team win. How about you, Todd? Now, you are here as our special guest host, built SSI to successful national security integrator. Tell us about how you make your decisions. What are your big decisions?
Oh, that's interesting. And Marcus, I disagree with you because I usually try to do what's best for me. And no, I'm teasing. Decisions. That's interesting because there's decisions we make every day that are small decisions. But I believe in order to have true success, your decisions better be based on principle.
Yeah.
And taking the emotion out of it. Typically, emotions and decision making do not make good bedfellows.
Right.
It's a bad situation. So I want to make sure I'm making decisions that are in alignment with who I am, the culture of the company, the direction of the company. And anytime I'm out of alignment on decision making or violating a principle, past experience has shown that goes pretty bad for me. So
Yes. I mean, don't your philosophies, the way we think, controls our attitude, which controls our decisions, which ultimately controls whether we win or not, or the outcome of all our decisions that add up over time. Now, Todd, tell us a little bit, just before we move on to the next segment, tell us a little bit about SSI and some of your experience in business. So you're going to be sticking around helping me to talk to our guests and help them bring out their stories.
I was blessed enough to be able to, well, actually, it goes way back. I mean, most entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, we've all mowed lawns for money. We've all had paper routes. At some point in there, we decided that if it is to be, it's going to be up to me. If I needed some cash in the pocket, I can't run to daddy. That was not an option for me. And so taking that into launching a business, it really is that simple. Somebody's got to execute. Yes, there's a vision, a dream, but at some point, action has to be taken.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to launch a company like SSI, I didn't launch it with hopes and dreams of being the biggest in North America. That came over time. I needed to be the best in Sacramento. I needed to be the best. I needed to be the best that I can be. And, over time, the confidence grew to have the belief that I could be the largest, or we could be the largest in North America, which is going to happen in the gaming market.
I love it.
Happen.
Todd, SSI, for those of you that don't know, Todd and I are business partners on a company that sells security cameras and security solutions, and one of our primary verticals is the gaming market, which is basically casinos all over the country. But coming up After the break, you're going to meet a couple of guys that take some real action. We're going to have the special opportunity to meet a father-son team that is quite literally shaping the landscape of the greater Sacramento region. In just a minute, you will meet the real estate developers Larry and Denton Kelly of LDK Ventures. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live. Also broadcasting from Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live podcast and YouTube at HaitiBiz.com. Welcome back, and I am here with Managing Principal Mr. Denton Kelly of LDK Ventures and its founder, Mr. Larry Kelly. How are you guys doing this morning?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Fabulous, Mark.
Doing good. Thank you for coming down on a Saturday, and we're looking forward to sharing your story. You're developers. You're a father-son team. Now, how's things working out for you there in development?
It's been a great 5-year run. I've actually been working with my dad now for a little over 10 years, and so certainly the first few years we're learning the business from a great mentor, and now we're collectively off and running. He's always been off and running in a successful way, and it's been a great pleasure to be a part of it.
How about you, Larry? How's things? You guys, for those of you, there might be one or two of you out there, probably most of the region knows who the Kelly family is and has heard of Larry Kelly and all the great stuff that you guys are doing in development in our region. But for those of you that don't, we're going to take a minute to get to know you guys. Tell us a little bit about the organization. I don't know. I didn't give Larry a chance really to talk yet. So you want to share with us a little bit about the organization?
Well, yeah, Mark, you're never any better than your team. And I've been very fortunate to attract and retain some really very competent, great people. And, of course, when Denton joined us, it added even more bandwidth and capacity. So that's the secret to success, in my opinion, is surrounding yourself with people that are smarter and better than you. And I've been very fortunate.
There's no doubt that is what I do every day. Now, Denton, tell us about your organization. What's the size of LDK?
Yeah, so we're about a 5-man executive team, which is myself, my dad, and then 3 other gentlemen, a CFO, a kind of in-house counsel that's really a COO, much more than a typical in-house counsel, then a gentleman who does all of our project management, entitlement, and all that. And so I would echo what my dad said. I think the single biggest asset, other than my dad's mentorship that I've been fortunate and to inherit and kind of become a steward of, is our collective management team that've been with my dad each over about 20 years on average. So it's very hard to find good people that you can rely on. It's very hard to find competent people that are kind of better than you and kind of they better you, make you a better person yourself. And I think that's really the biggest asset that I've been the beneficiary of, is an executive team that makes us to collectively better at what we do.
Yeah, that team is so important. Now, in terms of size, you've got a lot more employees than the 5-man executive team, but you also have a lot of square foot under management, and you guys buy and sell real estate. Tell us about how you measure the size of the company in terms of metrics.
Yeah, I think for us it's our collective company has about 50 employees, would you say that roughly? I mean, if you
if you don't count, if the hotel, there's quite a few more people, and then jet services about 35. But then, property management, accounting, legal, engineering, marketing, and leasing, it's a little over 50 probably total.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I wouldn't say that's a metric. It's not the metric, right? And so I think that the main metric we look at is economics. What kind of return are we getting on our investments? That's what we do, right? We are trying to create value through real estate, whether that's development, investment, acquiring value add. So at the end of the day, we're measured by a fairly objective measurement, which is a return, right?
You get a
whether
return
it's
on
a
the
profit,
investment.
a multiplier, an IRR.
How many million square feet do you have under management?
We have over 8 million feet in Sacramento. We got just under 1 million. We're getting ready to build down in the Bay with a large project in the Bay Area. We currently own over 600-700 apartment units, and we're building another 400 down in Tracy. So we're kind of rapidly expanding the portfolio.
But you have many multiple business strategies. What are the different divisions that you guys have?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we have different divisions. We just have one company, one platform that's a very kind of value-add, opportunistic real estate approach. So we do anything from multifamily to land to brownfield, which is essentially developing on contaminated sites like McClellan, like the rail yards, like the project we have down in the Bay Area. And so I'd say it's just an opportunistic where can we get the best return for our money and more importantly our time, because time is the most finite thing we all have at the end of the day.
You use the term opportunistic. Larry, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, I think in any business decision, it's it's easy to buy. It's hard to buy well, and so when you say opportunistic, there's something that you're acquiring that you have a unique opportunity to improve the value and create value. And so that's what we try to do. We try to buy things. We're not in an institutional format. We're not buying for a 5 or 6% return. Institutions do that. They do it for you as an investor. They do it for themselves. We're buying with risk capital. It's got a much higher return that's demanded on it, and generally speaking, acquisition is the most important decision we're going to make in that whole business model.
And I'd echo that. I mean, one thing in real estate you can never change is basis. The day you bought it it's yours.
Yeah,
right.
No doubt about it. Now you bought McClellan, pretty right. I mean, what happened with McClellan?
Well, I mean, again, that was one of those things that I got involved in. If you go back to 1996, they were talking about closing it. The economy in California was in the tank. Housing prices had dropped dramatically in our region. It was a bad time. And here, the federal government was talking about, closing something that had 15,000 jobs at it. And so I got involved trying to keep it open because I didn't want to see those jobs go away. Yeah. And in that process, I learned a lot about McClellan. And I said, well, by golly, if they're going to close it, there's got to be an opportunity. There's a pony in there somewhere. You got to dig hard and work through all the BS, but there's got to be something there. So we worked really, really hard. Some of our team members, really put a lot of effort into it. And at the end of the day, we were successful. We were able to acquire it from the county when they got it from the Air Force. And as a result of that, we got into a lot of things we didn't know. I wouldn't say we're going into it thinking we're going to be an FBO operator or a hotel operator, but we ended up doing both those things. And I think we did them exceptionally well because we have a basic core philosophy that is take care of your customer. It's all about the customer. You don't have a customer, you don't have a business. So everybody in our team, that's the one thing they focus on, the customer experience. Make it absolutely the best experience, whether it's a tenant for an office building or a warehouse or a customer at the hotel or a customer at our FBO. We got to be the best in that business that we can be.
Yeah. Now, the base closures in the early 90s were pretty devastating to our company. We did a lot of work with the government, and specifically McClellan, the Sac Army Depot, and beyond. Now, you came in, bought that land, and was able to salvage a lot of jobs and develop that and create opportunity for entrepreneurs, really, in our region. And now, from an investment standpoint, I take it that's been a pretty good investment for you guys.
Yeah, it's worked out. I mean, I always say it's worked out for everyone. I mean, when it's a win-win, it's a win for the community, it's a win for the local government, it's a win for our investors, and it's a win for us as a family and our executive team. Those are the best outcomes when everybody wins.
Tell me about the win that is going to be created with the rail yard purchase.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities that are analogous to McClellan, right? My dad said they didn't want to see 15,000 jobs leave Sacramento. I'd say at the rail yards, I want to see 15,000 jobs come to Sacramento that we've never had, right?
Yeah.
And so there you were working off of an existing base of a manufacturing civilian employment base that you didn't want to see leave. I would say in the rail yards, we want to see those jobs come here that historically we have not been able to obtain as a community. And I think there's a whole host of reasons why that's historically been the case. And I think that now the environment is fertile for that to change. I think. Go ahead.
Well, what kind of jobs are those? Just thinking out there, people are thinking, okay, what opportunity does that create?
Yeah, I just think it's higher wage skilled jobs, right? And that typically involves more kind of innovation oriented jobs. So whether it's tech, biotech, ag tech, something that has a disruptive nature to it that gives it a nice growth pattern, high margin business. So you think software, you think a lot of the things that are going on in the Bay Area. I think there are a lot of businesses in the Bay Area that there's certain that can afford the price and the kind of the carry to do business in the Bay. But I think there's quite a few successful high growth businesses that really struggle to retain employees in the Bay Area because the cost of living is so high. And those are the businesses that we would really like to, proactively recruit, with the city, with GSAC, with economic development, and really make that a reality. Because at the end of the day, I always say, look, we're off to a great start, right? We got Kaiser, that's 3,000 jobs. We got a Major League Soccer stadium most likely coming. That's a great catalyst, right? We're doing great things in the central shops and getting that going. But ultimately, if we're not able to attract high-wage, high-skilled, growth-oriented businesses to the rail yards, we haven't done our job. And I think we'll have some organic growth with local entrepreneurs in tech, but those tend to, kind of grow a little more slowly. So it's really important that you get some established companies, in Sacramento, in the rail yards early, that help catalyze that as a real employment center for the region and an innovation center that we can all be proud of.
And I'm kind of thinking of Sacramento and the vibe. So many people think of Sacramento as I've heard this by multiple guests. I always thought of you guys as kind of a cow town. And with the arena that you're talking about, with the Golden One, the soccer stadium, Kaiser, and the other entrepreneurial ventures that are inevitably going to be sprouting up, what kind of vibe do you think that downtown rail yard area is going to have? I mean, what do you guys envision for Sacramento's vibe?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a certain kind of urban hipster element to it,
Yeah.
right, if you want to call it that. And if you look at whether it's Austin, whether it's Portland, whether it's even San Francisco, right? They just have a certain kind of hip vibe to them, whether it's the local music scene or the arts, or just these various districts that kind of come up organically with certain amenities like breweries and urban winery. Like those are the urban amenities that we have just not had in Sacramento. Now with the catalyst, with Golden One Center, with the Major League Soccer Stadium, with Kaiser, with what we're doing on the rail yards, I think that gives a certain path of certainty and a certain comfort to employers to say that we know you're not there yet, but we know you're going to get there. And we want to be a part of that change, right? And that's the message we always say. It's like we want you to be a part of this change that's going on in Sacramento, and that really resonates because they feel like they're a part of the community. They become kind of labeled in a good way as kind of an agent of change for economic development in Sacramento, and that's what we want to see.
Denton Kelly, along with his father, Larry Kelly, sharing the story of what's going on with the rail yards, the vibe that is going to be created, is being created right here in Sacramento. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about decision-making, about the family dynamics that go into building such a successful organization. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, broadcasting from Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live podcast and YouTube at HaneyBiz.com. Welcome back, and we are here with Larry Kelly and Denton Kelly, the two leading developers in the Sacramento region, and they are developing the rail yards here soon enough. Guys, I mean, Denton, tell us a little bit more about what's going on with the rail yards and the challenges that you might be running into as you're attacking that project.
So we're currently going through an entitlement process, and entitlement processes in California, as you know, are not an easy thing. Or land use, and for legal reasons, they're challenging.
Yeah.
And so our team's currently going through that process with city staff in a very collaborative fashion, and we're very confident that will all work out positively, and we'll eventually have the entitlement approved by the end of this year.
What are you most frustrated about?
It's a great question. I mean, what am I think I'm most frustrated with not being able to build yet.
Yeah.
Right? It's like there's a necessary, very technical legal process you have to go through to get the entitlement to build, right?
Yeah.
But the exciting, aspect of development is being able to touch what you're building. The tactile fashion of real estate is what kind of brought me back home. It wasn't just trading paper and securities on Wall Street, what have you. It was actually building something that you could touch and feel, and you could actually have some kind of lasting impact on a community. So I think we're all, as a team, excited to get building.
Yeah.
But we know it's going to take a couple years to get there.
Frustrating not to be able to go build today, break some ground, get it going. Now, Larry, you've been involved in many, many big deals. Now, you've got to have ran into these times in your life where you got to show some patience. How do you handle those pressure situations where you've got to give some patience a chance in order to really come out with the right outcome?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mark. And I think I've been known for being very patient. Sometimes people wonder how in the heck you do it. But I think you always have to keep the end in sight. And, particularly a long-term project like the rail yards, like Stanford Ranch, like McClellan, you're going to go through cycles. There's going to be good times. There's going to be great times. And there's also going to be some times that are pretty slow and very frustrating. Some of that is, as Denton said, the process of getting to the point you can do something. But the reality is, if you know where you're going, you've got a goal in mind, it's out there, everybody shares it, you're all working towards it, you're going to hit some of those bumps, but that goal and getting there is worth it. So you just keep working, and you never, never, ever give up. You just persistent.
Never give up. Now, is developing a piece of property more difficult today than it was, say, 10, 20 years ago?
The degree of difficulty, I think, particularly in California, is consistently gotten more challenging. If you can develop here, I've always said you can develop anywhere. I mean, it is a challenging process, but it's also innovative. It's creative. We lead the way in so many ways, whether it's design or whatever. I think California is always on the cutting edge of what's going on.
And I know part of the reason Denton is taking over his spot in the company as the managing principal is he's bringing innovation, right? He's bringing a fresh perspective. He went out, got the chops in finance, is an investment banker, and is a hedge fund manager. Now you're in with the family business. Tell us about how you came into this, Denton, and what it's like joining this team and how the family dynamics work.
Yeah, so when I was living in New York, working at the hedge fund, there was a very just kind of conscious decision-making process to say, where do I want to be in 5 or 10 years? Not taking a short-term view, but where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing? How do I want to be living my life? Right? It was more of a holistic question, lifestyle, and it's like ultimately, I know I want to be married. I know I want to have kids. I know I want those kids and grandkids to be close to their grandparents. And I want I'll call it a sane lifestyle, business-wise, that will allow for me to, be present in the house.
Was it pretty insane in New York?
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, you work 100-hour weeks, and it's the price you pay for a great education. But it was worth every hour and heartache, and it was wonderful. But it was that's how I came into the business. It was just kind of taking a longer-term view and saying, this is how I envision my life. And how do I position myself, to get to that place? And so once I made the decision to move home and work with my dad, which I have been now for over 10 years, then I eventually, met my wife in San Francisco. We got married, and so it's like this vision has kind of become realized. And I think the, certainly the household, happiness has exceeded my expectation, and then just the successes that we've been able to enjoy as a team. Again, my dad and I as a family, but our team. Have certainly wildly exceeded my greatest expectations.
Yeah. Now, Larry, tell us about what it's like bringing your son in and the family dynamics within yours and Denton's relationship, and then also maybe share with us a little bit what it's like to be a grandfather.
I'd rather start with the latter first.
Great. I love talking grandkids. Let's do this.
It's just great. I mean, having grandchildren is probably one of the greatest blessings any of us can have. I mean, they're cute, they're fun, you have a great time with them. As I said earlier to someone here, I said, give them a sugar high and send them home.
I like that. I have to write that one down.
But as far as having Denton come back and join us, again, your family and ours are very similar. I insisted that he has to do something else. You can't just come into the family business. I mean, nepotism is not the best thing in my opinion. You got to earn your spurs. You got to get those battle scars. You got to find out what it's like to work in the real world for somebody else. So and the value to me of that was, I mean, he came back with just a tremendous amount of experience and a different perspective. I mean, Wall Street, investment banking, hedge funds, analytics, smart. You get a lot different perspective on things than somebody that's been doing what I've been doing. So, it really brought a talent, an expertise that we didn't have internally necessarily. Now, that's not to say the guys we have aren't absolutely, as I say, they're brilliant. They're a lot brighter than me. But we had now somebody young, which had a different perspective. But when he came back again, he didn't come in to running the company. He came in. He had to go do his own thing, make some of his own decisions, learn from his mistakes, get a good foundation in real estate.
Yes,
and then earn the respect of the team, which he did by
Yeah.
making them money.
Yeah,
So
it's funny how that that solves a lot of issues, isn't it? I'm going to bring in my brother-in-law Todd Flowers, who I asked you to interrupt me earlier, and you just let me continue here. So jump in here,
no,
Todd.
You guys have a great rhythm going, and I don't want to disrupt that rhythm, but I do love the fact that when we were talking before and I brought up grandkids with Larry, his eyes lit up. And it's one of those things, working with kids, we know what it's like. I mean, there's great times and there's other times that it's more challenging. But you guys are building a legacy together. And Larry, and your wife, you guys are the visionaries for that legacy. And I'm just curious, you guys have done some amazing things in real estate development. But when I was looking at some of your bios, I noticed that you are sitting on the board, I believe on the board for Placer County Child Abuse Prevention. It looks like you're doing things to give back. What is that?
Well, I was on that board for a long time, and the thing that I did, I don't believe generally in being on those type of boards for long terms. I just think there needs to have a turn, that new leadership, new thoughts. What I did there was change that board. The board was made up of a lot of people that worked on, the government side, and what we needed was money and community. And the community is more than just the people that are in the social services program. They're great people. They do a great job, but they didn't have access to people with money. So what I did was change that board up, bring in private industry representatives, bank people, people from development, people from industry. Change that up, make that a more vibrant board that was able to grow. So that happened. My wife is a CASA. She works with
so is our wives. That's funny.
Well. Yeah.
And it's just we give to that. We think it's a great dollar for dollar. It's one of the best returns on a charitable contribution you can get, because the volunteer hours exceed whatever dollar you give by multiples of hundreds. So she does a great job there. There's so many of people involved in that. It's a really good thing. So, I mean, we try to give back to the community in certain ways, to certain institutions, whether it's the schools, which we happen to believe. It's all about kids, in my opinion. You get the kids off to a good start, we're all going to be better.
No doubt. Getting the kids off to a good start. One final question for both of you guys, as we only have a minute or so left. Talking about decision making, you guys have both been very successful in your decisions, or you would not have had the outcome and the achievements that you have been fortunate enough to acquire, to build. Denton, with you, what's the biggest decision that you've made that really turned out right?
Coming home to work with my dad. Probably, that's a very honest answer. I think that and getting married. My wife, those are probably the two best decisions, most impactful, lasting decisions that I've made in my life. Decision about who you're going to spend your time with, who you're going to spend your life with. How about you, Larry?
Well, I think that, at the end of the day, whatever life you live, whatever legacy you leave, it's the sum total of all your decisions. And, obviously one of the most important is that choice of your partner and mate for life. And I agree with Denton. That's the first and most important. And then, the rest of the decisions you have to make, there's a lot of them, who you go to work for, the decisions you make in that job, the changes you make in your life with regard to jobs. And then, if you happen to be fortunate enough to become an entrepreneur, own your own business, operate your own business, then those decisions are yours. And there's a tremendous responsibility that goes with that. All those 50 or 100 people that are on our payroll, that are our employees that we count on every day, it's a big responsibility. I want to make sure that we provide stability, and if they're doing a good job for us, that we're doing a good job for them, to keep them employed and make sure their families have a source of income and a livelihood.
Larry Kelly, Denton Kelly, thank you for sharing your entrepreneurial stories, your stories of giving back to the community, and how you are creating the right vibe for all of us here in the Sacramento region. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, broadcasting from Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at haneybiz.com. All right, and welcome back. We are here with Mr. Todd Big Daddy Flowers, President and CEO of SSI. We've been talking to Larry and Denton about decision-making and the different things that they're doing in the region. Talk to us about your entrepreneurial journey, Todd, and some of the big decisions that you are making at SSI.
Goodness, entrepreneurial journeys. Gosh darn it. We were talking about this earlier, and so much. What drives decision making? Where does motivation come from? For me, it was more desperation than inspiration. And I think desperation, and not in the negative context of desperation, could be very powerful because we are either running from something or running towards something. And both have their place in success. For me, out of necessity, even as a child, if I wanted money, I had to go figure out a way to make money. And I think learning how to sell in the early days, whether it's knocking, I would take a lawnmower and push it around the block, knock on every door, and I knew door knocking, I was going to get a certain return on, and mow some lawns and have some cash. And that extrapolates out as an adult. Lisa and I married an amazing woman, your sister-in-law. We married beautiful sisters. And as Larry mentioned earlier, and I have to say, Larry and Denton are incredible gentlemen. And Denton's so smart. Larry, the wisdom, I want to spend some time. But he mentioned marrying the right woman. We both did that. We got lucky. That was probably one of the best decisions we ever made. But like he mentioned with employees, I mean, there's a responsibility that comes with saying I do and having children. And what kind of lifestyle are we going to live? What kind of human being am I going to be? And so the journey for me really started with maybe a little desperation of wanting to provide the best possible lifestyle for my family. I always had big dreams, big goals. I was willing to work hard. But maybe the vehicles I chose along the way weren't the best or weren't going to get me there, but they were important at the time. 10 years in the grocery business, great foundation, bought a house, got myself in debt the American way, got as many credit cards as I could because I figured at least the credit card companies believe in me, and I didn't want to let them down. So I made sure I didn't want to let them down. So I made sure I racked up some debt. It was the American way. And, when you're servicing debt, you become a slave to the lender. And at some point, there's more month than money, and realized I better do something. And so I was willing to do anything. Got involved in network marketing. I was willing to knock on doors. I was willing to do meetings at night. I was willing to do anything it took. And then that led me into the insurance business, and that was a brutal time for me. That's where I got my PhD in finance. And when I really found out what it means to have to dig down, because we lost everything. And kudos to the insurance guys out there. I happened to be in a situation where there was very little training, got thrown to the wolves, but I learned how to make 100 phone calls a day out of a phone book and found out what true rejection is. But there's some resilience built out of that. And not long after that, I got that phone call from you saying, hey, we've got this video company, and why don't you come on board? And, of course, you asked the best question of all, how little can I pay you?
I'm funny that way. I tried to create a win-win.
Yeah, it was phenomenal because it was the door opener for me taking that life experience and getting involved in something with somebody in a family business. And I was willing to do whatever it took there. But selling a tangible product versus insurance and some of the other things I was doing, it was just the right time. And I felt those life experiences. So we spent 10 years together building Northern Video Systems, which went on to be part of a $1 billion company, which you did an amazing job at. But all that was learning experience. And along that road, I found that there was a niche for me in Native American gaming, in the casino industry. And I really had that itch to become, to go, listen, I can do this. I know I can do this. And that's when you and I became partners at the Surveillance Systems, Inc., and that's really where the journey began. Of course, lots of decisions after that, but I think the DNA was built young, and the timing, the vehicle, the life experience came together, and that's really where the journey began.
I do want to clarify something, though. That's a 14-year-old business at this point, right? That started in 2002?
2002.
Yeah.
2002.
Yeah.
Now, why did you decide to focus on gaming and casinos and that vertical?
I really enjoyed it. I found selling Native American casinos, there's a history there of people taking advantage of those communities, and in a negative way. And I had built quite a few relationships along the way with local tribes, with decision makers, and our customer service was phenomenal, but they were begging me to do the installation portion of the security, not just sell them equipment, but actually get involved in the integration, the design, the installation. And the margins were fantastic, and there was loyalty there. And so I just knew there was a niche market. And everything we need to know, Mark, as you know, about success and how to win it lives in our customers' heads. They're telling me, here's an opportunity. We want you to do this. We're going to support you. And I knew if that existed in the local communities here, the local tribes, that it probably existed nationwide.
Well, you guys can do things at SSI that traditional security integrators can't do. When you talk about a casino environment, we're talking about thousands and thousands of cameras, and it's very complicated, and there's networks, and there's IP, and there's bandwidth, and there's storage, and all this complicated stuff. But you guys somehow find a way to make these very difficult solutions seem very simple. And now tell us about your team and how you guys do that.
Yeah, first I'll just say to any competitors listening, it is a horrible business to be in. Do not even attempt it. There's a tremendously high barrier of entry, and it is a high-risk environment. But you're right. The decision was made at some point. We could be good at a lot of things. I could try to compete with every guy in the United States in installing alarm systems, or we could be great at something. And so we decided to focus in primarily on gaming. And, of course, we do schools, and we do a lot of different verticals. But to be great at something, I understand what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. I'm not a technical guy. I mean, I have enough chops in the technical side. I know how to put together a system. But there's people that are amazing at what they do. And as Larry mentioned earlier, building a team around you, find the people that are great at what they do and have enough self-understanding and be humble enough to realize, hey, I don't need to be good at that. I need to assemble the team. And so we've been blessed. Our talent acquisition has been amazing, and it seems the momentum is there, and we're acquiring better and better and better talent.
Now, you guys have Tom Cisneros on your team. How's that working out for you?
Oh, man, I can't believe this just happened.
I'm still waiting for the government subsidy check for Tom.
He's great on the radio. Tom, you do a heck of a job as my mentor and help on the radio. But now he's in charge of all your marketing and vendor relations and really bringing the brand together.
I make an amazing cup of coffee.
You do a heck
Todd
of a
loves
job.
Those margaritas aren't too bad either, my friend.
Well, I just want to clarify, that's after 5 o'clock on Friday.
Now, Todd, you've built this business. You've got offices and sales guys all around the country, and you do the most sophisticated of installations. It sounds glamorous, but what are the biggest challenges you run into?
Oh, my goodness. The biggest challenge is, honestly, I feel right now I'm like the one-legged man in the ass-kicking contest, hopping all over the place.
Can he say that on the radio, Tom? I don't know.
That just happened.
I am hopping.
We have not used that terminology thus far, my friend.
I'm hopping all over the place. But, as I've listened to the show, and we've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs over time, say, what is it you do? Well, I provide vision. Okay, so you provide vision. That tells me, are you really who's executing this thing? So one of the biggest challenges as you're building these teams is fighting off there's this lure of saying, hey, I'm going to manage what I've built now. And that's a very dangerous place to be, is going into that management stage. When we know the real business happens in the creative stage. Someone's got to be out there driving. You get into the management stage, and we need management. We need to systematize and manage systems, but you don't manage people. You grow people, and you inspire people. And so one of the biggest challenges is not slipping into that management stage. And when negative things happen, now you can go into the blaming stage, and the blaming stage leads to the dying stage. And I think that's why a lot of businesses fail, is you've got to fight to stay in the creative stage and make a decision that you got to be part of the execution. And so getting out there and being on the field and not trying to run a company from the press box. And I think it's give credit and take blame.
The entrepreneur, the CEO, on the field, in the trenches, with his team, never blaming anybody, looking at himself to help drive the solutions. Todd, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to ask you to stick around a little bit because we're going to talk some closing thoughts about decision-making. I also want to thank our guests, Larry Kelly, Denton Kelly. You guys were awesome. Thanks for joining us on the show. I want to thank our sponsor, Limitless Limo, LL916.com. And I also want to think back to a few days ago, I had my 53rd birthday. And we went over to Sully's, right? Sully's is my new hangout in Rockland. Chris Sullivan over there has got a great vibe. It's over there on Pacific Street in Rockland. Anyway, it's kind of my new hangout now. We were over there for my birthday, and my good buddy Tom Cisneros comes in and with a group of other people. And
thanks for having us.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I received a few gifts but I want to that really mean a lot to me. But I want to take just a minute to thank you straight up for that gift that you gave me, Tom. As some of our listeners know, has been on the radio for several years. He had his own radio show on KRAK years ago, right here at this studio. And when Tom graduated from broadcasting school back in the day,
that was a long
several
time ago.
years back, he was given an antique microphone that symbolized the effort that he was putting in order to achieve that his success at that point,
by my best friend. Actually,
by his best friend. And you know what? It was my 53rd birthday, and I'm having a little fun on the radio, and Tom and I have become like brothers here on the radio. And you know what Tom did? He took that microphone that was given to him years ago, and he passed it along to me. And I want to thank you, Tom, for doing that.
You deserve it. It was a pleasure.
I really appreciate that. It meant so much to me. And next week, we're going to be talking about Memorial Day. We're going to be talking about freedom. We're going to be talking about hometown patriotism. We're going to be talking about what it's like to have, as an entrepreneur, your son and his friends go off to war, and as a C student addresses a group of young men going off to fight for our freedom. I'm going to talk a little bit about what that's like next week on the show. And I'll be joined by my daughter, the president and CEO, co-founder of Haney Garcia Realty Group, Ashley Haney. And we will be back in just a minute. This is Entrepreneurs Unlimited on Facebook Live, broadcasting from Sports 1140 KHTK, streaming live, podcast, and YouTube at HaneyBiz.com. You know, we've been talking about decisions and the biggest decisions we make in our life, and I think it's been very helpful. I know June 8th is right around the corner, which is my anniversary, and I think it's 31 years, and my wife and I had made an agreement early on that, how people ask me, Mark, how do you do it 31 years? And we made an agreement early on regarding decisions that she would make all the little decisions, and I would make all the big decisions in our marriage. And you know what? After 31 years, there's been no big decisions, and it's funny how that works out. But I'm back here with Tom Cisneros, Marcus Haney, and we only have a minute, and Todd Flowers. We only have a minute or two left, but we're talking about big decisions. And Tom, we're going to go around the table. What are your takeaways from today's show, Tom? Just really quickly.
Well, one of the things that I really enjoyed listening to the show was the fact that there's obvious legacy here. You've got a guy that's been around for a long time, and he's maneuvered his way through California laws changing and becoming a developer and creating opportunity for people in this region. His son's now involved. The thing that was highlighted in my head is the fact that, Mark, you're doing the exact same thing with your family. Todd, you're doing the exact same thing. And you both employ a numerous amount of people, and we count on you to make these decisions, because when it comes right down to it, it's going to help us be the best we can possibly be. So I want to go on record and say thank you for the opportunity to work with you incredible people.
Appreciate that.
Tom has a review coming up. So
he's got to make sure he gets the right pay increase. So now, Marcus, takeaways from today?
Yeah, well, after hearing Denton speak so well, and him and Larry being on here, as the next generation, I really took away today that it's our responsibility to pick up that ball and run with it and get it across that goal line and ensure that we keep our legacy flowing for years to come.
Thank you, guys. And Todd, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting. I love listening to Larry. There's so much wisdom there. And one of the things I picked up on, and I believe this, is decision making to me is very, very, very simple. We overcomplicate it through emotional experiences, but it boils down to, are the decisions you're making in alignment with your value system? And even more simple, do what's right because it's the right thing to do, and decisions are easy.
Absolutely.
Well said, Todd. And my closing thoughts are that really there's a compounding effect of all these decisions. Larry, and I think, Todd, you brought this up, it's all these little decisions that really add up over time, and if you make enough of them that align with your goal, then you're going to come out with a pretty good outcome at the end of the day. And I think if you think about the compounding effect of these decisions, it's like an investment. I mean, if you have an investment that's a 10% growth, it'll double every 7 years, just compounded. If it's 12% growth, it'll double every 5 years, right? And if it's 50% growth, it'll double every 2.5 years. So that's what we're looking for at SSI, right, Todd?
Absolutely.
But, regardless of what the rate of growth is, it's the commitment to that investment. And I would submit to you that who we spend
1 minute.
Who we spend our time with is the biggest investment that we can make. Who we spend our time with really controls our outcome, and it's that decision that is most important. And we talked about, who we choose as wives, but I would say even to you younger people out there who are thinking about who am I going to hang around with at school? Who am I going to hang around with in college? Maybe we should be hanging around with people who bring out the best in us, people who help us to be more motivated, to give us an example to look forward to. And a quick story, June 8th, talked about that being my anniversary. And June 8th, I had a best friend in high school, and June 8th was his birthday. And he was the hardest working guy I knew. He worked at his dad's gas station. His name was Rusty West. And he was the hardest working guy that I knew. But we were good friends. I saved a lot of my money. I worked pretty hard. But Russ, he worked even harder than I did. And he saved his money. And I remember on June 8th, 1981, we graduated from high school, right? June 8th was also the day I got married, if you can remember that from earlier. June 8th, though, 1981, was Russ turned 18. And on June 8th, 1981, Russ signed the papers to buy his first house. Now, that's who I hung around with. The hardest working guy in our high school, the hardest working guy, bought his house on his 18th birthday. I surrounded myself with those guys, and that gave me the motivation to continue to save, double save. I mean, we turned his little place into a party place like crazy. I built a keg, got a refrigerator, and we had a ton of fun. But that guy motivated me
30 seconds.
to save money, buy my first house just a couple years later. And I can tell you what, the compounding effect of that first halfplex that I bought was pivotal. And so who you spend your time with, you only have 168 hours in a week. We only have so much time on this earth. We have to start early. There's a compounding effect. So think about who you spend your time with. And you know what? Who you spend your time with, that's what this show is all about. I am here to try to help you to get better. Spend your time with people who are trying to bring out the best in you. That's what this show is all about. That's what we four are all about. And we hope that along with Larry and Denton Kelly, we can all do that together. Never above you, never below you.
Always by your side.